안녕하세요. And so I woke you up with my bad Korean. So welcome, and we're looking forward to spending some time with you. We have a distinguished panel from around the world that have come to Korea to share their thoughts and insights, all under the umbrella of algorithms, big data, analytics. We have people from Europe, people from the United States, and people from Asia. So I think you're going to get a nice broad perspective of different issues that we're dealing with in corporate America. My name is Dean Severa. I'm with SAP, which is a large software provider. And our main customers are the big enterprises around the world. So like Samsung and LG, those are all customers of SAP. So before we get going, I'm going to introduce the panel and let them give you 1 minute on themselves and their companies. So first, let me start with my friend Jenny. And Jenny and I actually did a panel here last year at this conference on innovation. So Jenny, so you tell them a little about yourself.
Jenny, and I came from Veritas, which is based out of Mountain View, California. We used to be part of a Symantec, and the company got split into two, so we became an independent company. Our company does data management, intelligence, and copy data management, and things like that for large enterprise customers, more efficiently manage their data. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Jenny. Arthur, I saw Arthur's presentation yesterday. It was fascinating about the flattest valley in the world in Delft. So please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so my name is Arthur de Kroek, and we started the Robo Valley platform, which is an ecosystem in relation to the TU Delft Robotics Institute. And we want to create the Silicon Valley of robotics in Europe within the Netherlands ecosystem. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Next we have Peng. Peng, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
你好，室友。我知道我长得很像韩国人，我会有机会的话，我会好好学韩语的。我叫彭超，来自北京，我们是一家共享经济驱动的咨询公司。然后今天我受邀给大家介绍一下中国的共享经济企业。谢谢。
Thank you, Peng. And next we have from Splunk, Wilson.
Hi, Wilson Chin from Splunk. We make machine data accessible, usable, and valuable to everyone. I guess part of the enterprise big data software family. So pleased to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Wilson. And now we have the two smart guys that are going to ask all the easy questions, I hope. And I listened to Michael's discussion yesterday about the Swedish accelerator that he's creating. So, Michael?
Hi, so my name is Michael Comets. I'm from Sweden, small country in the northern part of Europe. We are like 9 million people in Sweden, like 75% of Seoul, and I work with a business incubator that are affiliated to the biggest and oldest university in Sweden called Uppsala. So yeah, I did a presentation about that yesterday. So now my role is to ask tricky questions to these guys. So.
Hopefully not too tricky. And next we have Mr. Kim. Please introduce yourself.
네, 안녕하십니까. 저는 마이리얼플랜이라는 보험 중개 서비스를 운영하고 있는 김지태라고 합니다. 네, 이따가 질문은 영어로 할 텐데요. 많은 분들이 한국분인 것 같아서 일단 한국말로 소개를 드렸습니다. 감사합니다.
Okay, so thank you. And so you see we have a fairly distinguished council here that's going to help you, give you some of their insights, and from all over the world, which is, I think, really neat. I'm going to start the discussion. I'm going to talk a little bit about SAP and what we're doing and what we see in the marketplace around algorithms, big data, analytics. And then we're going to have questions after that. So after every discussion, we'll have 4 or 5 minutes of questions, and then we'll go to the next speaker. And if you have questions in the audience, please put up your hand. We have the ladies will come around with the microphone, and so that everybody can hear you. Okay? So let me start first. Let's see. I pushed it already. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Okay. So let me go to this. So I'm just going to set a foundation a little bit around algorithms, big data, analytics. We already live in the world of algorithms. We all know that. If you are a user of Google, Google knows that I like to play golf. So when I go to my Google page, I get lots of advertisements on new driver, new golf balls, new hats, new shirts that I should be buying, right? And it knows that about all of you, all of us, because it's using an algorithm. It watches what you search, it watches what you are interested in, and then it pushes advertisement to you so that you're looking at things that are interesting to you. It also may push articles to me about golf, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, right? LPGA stars, the Korean women are dominant in the golf world. So, Inbee Park, it may push information to me about Inbee Park. So that's an algorithm, right? So there's nothing, the magic is the formulation of that algorithm. It's taking data, it's trying to make logic of it, and then it's also trying to help predict the future, right? And that's kind of where we're heading with algorithms, is because of the ability to get massive amounts of data, capture it, and do something with it, we now are able to use tools to mine the data and come out with new results that will help us see the future, right? That's the real, I don't know if in Korea you have this term, holy grail. I don't know what you would say. What is holy grail in Korea? Or nirvana. Nirvana, maybe that's more of a Buddhist. But you get enlightenment, right? Because you can see the future. And that's where it's heading. Here you can see just massive amounts of data coming. Sensors, phones, clicks on the computer. It's all there to be utilized by yourself, by companies to predict the future, okay? And I mentioned, why is it growing? Why are we able to do this now? It's like all of technology, the technology in mobile phone. I was riding the train from Gangnam Station, and my Korean friends, they all sit down and they put their phone in their face. Every single Korean on the whole train. It's amazing. They're watching TV, they're getting news. Your country is probably the most advanced users of mobility, right? Versus Americans, we don't have public transportation very much. But two, we don't use our phones to the extent that you have. But that's been an advancement in the ability to create information for you at anywhere, anytime. So here you have all types of data, any type of data now we can capture. You have big databases, SAP, we have this database called HANA. HANA, I think, is a Korean word for one, right? And one was created, this database, this in-memory database was actually created here in Korea at one of your universities. So that's real innovation. It's an in-memory processing database that was created here in Korea that SAP bought, if you will, and now we utilize it as the foundation for all of our applications. And then you have the desire to see the future. Again, people who then take that data, that wealth of data, and what do we do with it? We want to see the future. We want to see, if you're, Samsung, we want to see who's going to buy TVs. Who's going to buy my TV? Who's going to buy my cameras? Who's going to buy my mobile phones? They want to know that. When are you going to buy it? They want to predict those things. Okay, so there's a desire to have that information, which we never really had in the past. Of course, when you ask many enterprises, even yourself, what do we do with all this data? There's too much data, right? How do I know the gold pieces in the data versus just the normal data? So that's where tools, algorithms will help that. And this is an area that SAP, we're spending time with startups, because startups are very nimble. Startups here in Korea, in Israel, in Europe, in Silicon Valley. We're going around the world working with companies that have unique insights into this area to solve this problem that you're seeing here. So we're going through a journey. The journey is, I mentioned at the beginning what's happening today, or what happened, because even SAP, we have this great tool called business intelligence, BI, right? But all BI does is look in the rearview mirror. What happened, right? It doesn't allow you to look forward. Where am I going? Where should I turn left, turn right? So BI was reflective in the back, and that's towards the left-hand corner of this chart here that you see. where you have value and difficulty, right? So the more difficult it is to get, maybe the more value you get out of it. But today we're kind of in this what happened environment. And I'll bet many of the companies in Korea are in the let's look at the data after it happens. And then the next phase is why did it happen? What caused us to not sell as many phones? You know, Apple just went through this, right? Apple, their sales of iPhones has gone way down. Is that because they did not innovate? Is that because everybody already has a iPhone in America or other areas that they're going? Is that because they were planning to sell in China and Samsung beat them in China or Huawei? Okay? So we have to know why. And then we get into the more advanced analytics or algorithms. What will happen? And then even more advanced, again, the nirvana is, can I change the future? And how do I do that? Okay? So this is the journey that we're all on together. Here is the same journey from an enterprise perspective. If you look, you have kind of competitive advantage and the maturity of your analytics on the bottom. And if you look at the dotted line, I'll bet that's where most people are today, most companies. Okay? Starting to do some predictive, but really have spent most of their time with standard reports. Think about at your company how many times you ask, hey, IT, I want a different report. And it takes a week or two, and they give you this different look at and it's not real time. So that's where we are, is the lower left-hand corner, and then obviously we want to get to the right-hand corner, the right top, right? Where we predict and act. How do we change the future? How do we make the future ours? There are not many people up to the right. You know, I can think of a few companies that maybe not even SAP clients, but you know, companies like Google, they're very advanced in their analytics and their ability to utilize information to kind of predict the future. Here are some use cases. You know, that's kind of my business. You know, I'm in strategy, portfolio, and SAP. I try to really understand how will a technology affect a use case for our customers. Okay, it's all about the customer. And where will this technology, where can we put it in our portfolio of solutions to impact the customer? And so I look for use cases. You know, we were talking, I think yesterday, a number of the discussions were around IoT, Internet of Things, right? At SAP, given our clients are like Samsung and others, manufacturers, one of their big use cases is around preventative maintenance, right? When will my machine break down? Because when it breaks down, my production goes down. I want to know in advance, when will it break down? When do you estimate the parts will wear out? When do I need to replace a light bulb? So this is predictive analytics. We were working with Coca-Cola Company in Mexico. They wanted a smart Coke machine. I want the machine to tell me, when is there no more Diet Coke? When does the light bulb go out? And what are people buying? When do I need to replenish it? And when do I need to fix it? Because otherwise the machine is dumb machine, and doesn't talk to anybody and can tell them those things. So we worked with them to create a smart machine. Light bulb went out, hey, come fix my light. Hey, I'm out of Coca-Cola, I'm out of Diet Coke, please bring it. Because otherwise it's very expensive, they'd send a truck around to check every time. Now they don't have to. They go when the machine tells them, I need Coke to sell more. And then it'll get more advanced. We'll use their badges or their credit cards, and they'll see, hey, Jenny is coming. Jenny likes tuna sandwich. We're going to sell Jenny tuna sandwich on a special with a Coke. So it's going to get very smart. Okay? So these are just different use cases in different industries. This is where we spend a lot of time at SAP, trying to figure out how to help our companies in different industries. We work in 26 industries. Okay? Retailers, they want to know, what are you going to buy when you come in? And can I influence it? You know, in a grocery store where food is sold, most shoppers make 70% of their buying decisions in the store. They see ad, they see something on sale, they see something they didn't see before, a new thing, but they make the decision in the store. So retailers, they want to influence that. They want to put marketing. They want to put marketing onto your phone. That's all around analytics and big data. Okay? The other thing that's changing with the innovations around big data analytics is how we see data. So this is a chart that is showing relationships between revenue and margin, gross margin of certain different products. Okay? And obviously the products way off to the right or left are the ones that get more margin. But this is just one way to see data, to see how it relates to one another, and for you to make decisions in real time. Dashboards are another way, again, an accumulation of big data analytics, algorithms that create different decision-making points will come into a dashboard. And these are all now they want them in real time. You know, am I selling Coca-Cola at every machine in Mexico City? How much am I selling? Should I be selling Cherry Coke? Should I be selling 7-Up, etc.? So you can make decisions very fast. We mentioned mobility. Korea is the king or queen of mobility, right? I mean, you use your mobile phones for everything, and you have great speed of the internet. It's amazing. In America, we're still in like caveman days. It's terrible. But getting information anywhere. So for example, at SAP, one of our big tasks is to give information to our salespeople, okay, or the customers who have salesmen, so that they can go in and sell more to a customer by having information about that customer, about what they want, and predicting what they need. We have seen the sales go up because they have these devices, an iPad, or we've given every one of our salesmen, we have 25,000 salesmen, and they all have iPads. And they're all using the latest data to create a sale. You know, business intelligence, these algorithms, we mentioned companies are using these algorithms. I mean, think about one of the areas that we're trying to help, connected car. You know, a car that drives itself. It is using advanced algorithms. It is sending out, information, and it bounces back. Is there anybody in front of me? Is there somebody to the right? Are they stopped? Am I not stopped? Can I go 50 miles an hour? They're, trying to be like a person. The algorithm is trying to replicate a person driving. So it's getting all this information and doing it in real time, right? So that's an advanced algorithm. Those are the types of algorithms that are going to continue to build and flourish. And that's where countries like Korea, you have a very intelligent workforce. You know, building these algorithms, I think, is an opportunity for Korea. And I'm starting to see more startups do that type of solution, create those types of solution. We mentioned predictive analytics. You know, predictive, again, can I see the future? Can it tell me where I'm going? Can it tell me, should I turn right, should I turn left? For example, do more women want blue purses or black purses? Do they want red in the summer or gray in the summer? Okay? That's what these predictive analytics will start to help us understand. There's also the side of governance and risk and helping us so that we don't get in trouble. And this can happen in corporations, it can happen in a manufacturing plant, and these real-time information will then provide alerts, real-time alerts. It's getting too hot, it's getting too cold, there's too many people in there, there's not enough people in there. Again, all around collecting data, looking at the data, and providing a recommendation. Enterprise performance management, again, can relate to any type of company. It can be a retailer. How are my stores doing? How are products in those stores doing? Manufacturing plants. It can be, Samsung selling phones at different outlets around the world. Getting this data real time, coming back to the management teams, and then going through and deciding what to do. in real time. So that if phones aren't selling, certain types of phones aren't selling in certain types of in certain parts of the world, they can move those phones to somewhere else. They don't have to keep shipping them to China if China they're not selling. They can ship those phones to the United States or to South America where they will sell. So my conclusions are that, we're in the early days. We're just starting the journey. It's probably been 4 or 5 years. These guys probably know better than me, but 4 to 5 years of us going through and really trying to understand how to utilize all this big data. You've got all types of infrastructure that's coming into play, like Hadoop. What do I do with Hadoop, right? Am I distributing it all of this? Am I keeping it all together? You have HANA, which is in memory, which makes it go fast, but maybe doesn't always work in certain types of circumstances. So we're going to continue to evolve this story, right? The need or desire for insights is becoming greater. People want to know more about where should I be heading. They're starting to trust algorithms. In the old days, it was the executive with the gut feel. I kind of think women are going to buy black shoes, okay, the designer. Nowadays, they know. Women are buying black, or they're buying brown, or they're buying blue, because the data is telling them in real time, right? So I can manufacture more or less of those. Data scientist, I don't know if that's a term in Korea yet, if you are familiar with that term, but in America, we're seeing the need for those people skyrocketing. These are people that look at the data. They actually can help you understand what data to collect, how to collect the data, how to use the data, and then what types of information you're going to get from that data. If you have a son or daughter who's going to college and you want them to get a good job in America, data scientist. That's the profession to be right now. And then, as I mentioned, we're all heading towards predicting the future with data, right? Sophisticated algorithms, the development of these algorithms are going to become easier to do with tools, with APIs, with, everybody is going open, even SAP, which has always been closed. We're going to be open because we want smart people from all over the world, from Korea, to come into our environment and create solutions on top of our environment. Okay? So let me stop there, and let me open it up to either our friends or to you for questions. Thank you. Gentlemen, easy questions?
Yeah, Dean, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Yeah, so hi. So you mentioned the different phases around analytics. You described descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, and finally prescriptive analytics. Do you think it's possible to skip any of those steps for a market like Korea to go directly for prescriptive, or do you need to go through all those steps to be able to reach the nirvana phase of prescriptives?
No, I'm not necessarily the great expert of algorithms, but I think that you can skip. It's just, again, like telephone, right? The telephone you put up in Africa, they put up telephone poles. In America, we put up telephone poles. Well, you go to Africa, there's no telephone poles. It's all mobile now, right? And so they skip that. I think the same can be true. I don't know what you think, Michael, but I think the same can be true, that there's an opportunity to skip over and get to predictive. Obviously, you need to understand the ability to use data and how to use data. But I don't know, I'll throw it back to you. What do you think?
I agree with you. It could be possible to skip some of those steps, at least if you don't really immediately start to connect it with big data.
Right.
I think if you run a company and you already have access to some valuable information inside the company, you have probably access to the general ledger. You have an ERP system that is running your production units and your warehouses and stuff. And of course, you probably have some database around the needs and the demands from your customers. If you collect all those data together and put it in a rules engine, then you probably can do some prescriptive analytics. And actually, there is a good example for an already well-known use of prescriptive analytics. That's in the insurance business. When an insurance company is calculating the premium, you may be going to come up with that later.
You're giving a plug for Mr. Kim.
Yeah, so they will use a rules engine, which really is a prescriptive analytic tool,
Absolutely.
I would say, to calculate the right premium for a young guy in Seoul buying a new motorbike. He probably need to have a high premium because he will face several great risks for the company. So, yeah.
Did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I have a question for you, Dean. You bring a very interesting point. I gotta look into that more. We have been thinking about those issues. But my question to you, Dean, is, well, I understand, and I think most people in Korea at this point, we understand that there's a greater need for data scientists. And there's not that many people that can do the job, right?
Yeah.
And I'm lucky to be working with some of the best talents in Korea, but I have a greater need to hire more, right?
Yeah.
And I'm at a point where I can't really hire a good talent out of a school or anything like that at this point. So I think I need to train them. So I guess my question to you is, how do you train data scientists to be equipped to, to be able to do this predictive analysis going forward?
Yeah, it's a real challenge. It's in America, in Silicon Valley alone, we have 80 to 100,000 jobs we cannot fill with our universities, with our systems. So, as you know, we attract many people from around the world, from India, from China, Korea, countries that have good analytical skills. So by the way, we work with Stanford. The Stanford has a data scientist curriculum that we bring them in. We work with them while they're in school, train them, and then they come out and hopefully work for us. But it really requires, I think, on-the-job training. It's not something where it's like history, where you can read the book and then you understand history, the history of Korea, the history of China, etc. You have to go do it. And so I think it's really on the job, which makes it difficult. I don't know what you're seeing, maybe the same, huh?
I was just hoping that there is some kind of
magic?
Some kind of way for us to train our data scientists better.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be a greater number of those jobs, positions.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I wish there was. I mean, there's a massive opportunity there for the young people. Okay, so we're gonna, any questions from the audience? Because I was gonna go on to Jenny. Is that okay? Okay, so Jenny, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you. So I'm going to shift the gear a little bit. I'm going to talk very little about my company or technology, rather talk about us and my experiences and how all of us relates. So focus is more of a diversity. So we'll start with a little bit of fun here. If you can use your 5 fingers and count the ones that, if I call out the sentences, if you agree, fold up your fingers. So see how many fingers you get. So I am not afraid of proposing new ideas to my manager. You don't have to show me, but just to start counting. I don't need to please my boss to advance in my career, okay? And I'm open to working with anyone from different background, origin, different ethnic backgrounds, whatever. I'm open. And number 4, without risking and having challenges, I cannot learn and grow, okay? The last one is, I would do what I do for less money. I do what I did today for less money, okay? How many of you get 5? 4. Great. 3? Great. So I'm not gonna go down the next levels. All right, so we're gonna come back to this a little bit later in my talk. So everybody's already aware, I'm talking a little bit about Silicon Valley. So Silicon Valley is a 15-mile, there are different definitions, but in my book, it's a 15-mile stretch from San Francisco to San Jose, that small little space in the United States. 99 companies in the Silicon Valley, their combined value, the capital is worth almost $2.8 trillion. It's a huge amount of money. You can see the blue section shows the market capital, and it grew and went down around the time when it was dot-com bubble, and you see how fast that is growing in the last number of years. So it is a very strong place where we're seeing a very, very clear growth. And talking about venture capital, a lot of other speakers talk about it today. Over 40% of the venture capital deals are in Silicon Valley, and over 50% of the venture capital funding is going into Silicon Valley. So there's a lot of money investment going into this place. Unicorn, all of you already know what that is. And out of the top 10 unicorn companies in the States, the 5 of them are based out of Silicon Valley. So you can see how it is. Now, why is Silicon Valley so successful? There are three key factors that it all starts with people and the mindset. That's what I'm going to talk about today more specifically. Okay? So starting a little bit with my story and 5 observations, because I had a luxury of spending time in the States and also back in Korea when I was a little bit younger. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but it doesn't mean that there's necessarily all the good things in Silicon Valley and bad things in Korea, but I was trying to emphasize some of these learnings in my 15 years of career in Silicon Valley. So my 15 years in the Valley and 15 years in Korea, I'm not 30, by the way. So I never felt that I was different when I was in the States working for all different companies. And until I looked at the mirror, I was looking different from others, right? But when I worked in those companies, nobody really treated me differently. It's just all of us are the same, the people trying to work together to make things work. So that's one thing that was really, really a sort of important thing that really got me where I am today. And in Korea, probably changed over time in the last 15 years, but being different was discomfort. You want to blend in, you want to be the same as others. If you're different, then you stand out, then people kind of look at you with different eyes, right? And you don't feel very comfortable. So that's kind of the one thing. Now, second thing, in my career in the Silicon Valley, I was very, very pleased with having a great mentors and people who help me learn and grow. It's amazing how people are just willing to help you, even though you don't get anything back in return. I had a lot of mentors from all different backgrounds. Some of them are white people, some of them are from Asian, some of them are from many different places, but they just help you and you help them, and that's how it works. So it's about you and me growing together and winning together. Whereas then back in Korea, I think it's more around, okay, competition, okay, is it either you or me? And just the picture in there, it kind of shows, I don't know if you know in the States, right, if the traffic light goes, broken, then what happens is that people kind of follow the unwritten rules to go, one by one, so that way everybody gets out of there. You know what happens in Korea when that goes bad, right? Now, another key learning for me in the States was, in Silicon Valley, was more around being a manager and being a boss is easy thing to do. But being a leader is a completely different story, right? You're sort of, you're making people to do what you want them to do without telling them what to do. Whereas being boss and manager and being leader in Korea, always in my memory, was that you tell your people what to do and how to do it. So that was sort of a wake-up call for me, and that's how it took me years and years to learn how to lead a team. I'm still learning. Now, another thing is it's all about team and challenge and fun. Not always is it fun, but important values is the team, and we work together, we challenge together, and we fail, and then having fun in the process is important. Whereas, again, and probably a different picture today back in Korea, but it's more about who I work for, what's the name of my company, and how much I'm making. So those are the more important values that people look at when they look for jobs. And another important thing, very important thing that I wasn't very good at all, is to speak up and stand up for your idea. You have something that you disagree, you have great ideas that you have good data to back it up, and you have a good argument. Standing up and speaking up your ideas really help you grow in your career. And that's how I felt, that's how I sort of grew in my career over time. Whereas I think in some parts of the Korea, still the case where if you speak up and you speak up your mind and you disagree in public with what your managers are saying, sometimes you have the sense of jobs insecurity. Now, talking a little bit about diversity facts in Silicon Valley, nearly 37% of the people in Silicon Valley are born outside US, they're immigrants. And of this, more than 60% are from Asia. Surprisingly, very little percent came from Korea out of that 60%. and they bond really, really well together when they come over. They help each other. 65% of the people with a bachelor's degree working in science and engineering in the Valley were also foreign-born. And 1 out of 2, more than 50% of the Silicon Valley startups that had at least one foreign-born founder in their company. And 51% of the entire America's unicorns found by immigrants, and somebody mentioned that this morning as well. So this is how diverse you see in the companies, and it's important. They're not doing it just for the sake of being diverse. This is more about being successful with a diverse group of people. And this is also some of the names that you recognize in their breakdown of the technology jobs between minority and white. And you see the numbers that I put in there in blue are the Asian percentage out of that minority. So you see how dominantly the people who came from outside US and they actually work in those companies. Now, if you're looking for the best candidates in the world for the job that you're trying to hire them for, if you narrow down the circle of where you want to hire the people from, whether it's the countries or women, men, or is that people with the colors, it doesn't matter, right? If you narrow down, you're really working from a very small pool of talents. So that is obvious reason that if you're looking for the best candidates, you need to really open up and look beyond where you are today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about 5 cultural characteristics of Silicon Valleyans. And this is not something that came from me, but I got it from some research. Now, number 1, the people in Silicon Valley, they're laid back. You know, they're Californians, right? They're laid back, but they're ready for action. They do not like the corporate bureaucracy where you have to go through so many different steps to get something done. They want quick and agile decision making. Let's do it, try it, and fix it later if it doesn't work. So that's one of the key characteristics of the people in Silicon Valley: action. Second, they're committed. They're committed to the company, they're committed to the team, they're committed to all the things that they're doing in their organization, but at the same time, they're very independent. So what that means is that I'm committed, but at the same time, I'm working for a larger cause of, say, creating future of technology, right? I mean, something that I want to contribute to, and something that I'm really working, in fulfilling jobs that I work with top-notch colleagues, the people who are really great. So that's really another aspect of being independent. And there was a survey asking about, are you constantly receiving alternative job offers, job opportunities? And people in Silicon Valley, more than half of the people said yes, they constantly get opportunities to move to another company compared to the non-Silicon Valleyans. Number 3, very competitive. They're competitive in a way they look for ways to succeed and be better than other people, but at the same time, very cooperative. This is the one thing that I was mentioning earlier about people trying to help each other, right? Because they know the teamwork and the collaboration, if you don't work together, that nobody's going to succeed, right? So that's something that clearly sees as something that they work together is very important. So diversity, they're open to working with anyone from any background, different strength, different background, and they value the peer networks very, 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 very much, meaning that they have very strong network where they go and solve problems from that community of their network. And so there's a survey asking about, are you participating in an open source project? The folks in Silicon Valley, you can see 4 out of 10 people say, I participate in open source projects. So it's not just about my team and my organization. Number 4, pragmatic but optimistic. So very realistic type of people, right? That nobody thinks that everybody's going to go perfectly well, right? So they're very realistic, but at the same time, extremely optimistic in a way. The failures are opportunity to learn and grow, and so any prudent risk-taking is something that is encouraged, and that's the culture in the industry. And I think most of you probably heard this before, but I like this. The CEO of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, said, The biggest risk is not taking any risk. In a world that is changing really quickly, the only strategy that is guaranteed to fail is not taking the risk. So it's a very, very dominant sort of a crucial in there. So you have to really try. But if you fail, that's okay. Number 5, extrinsically motivated but intrinsically fulfilled. What that means is money is important, okay, but it's not everything. That's basically what it means. So there was a survey. So they're looking for jobs that energize themselves and grow professionally, and they want to create values, right? And they want to be intellectually stimulated, and they want to solve difficult problems in innovative ways. So there was a survey asking question, is a lot of money very important for you? You see, 65% of people say, yes, a lot of money important for you. But pay attention to this, right? I would do what I do for less money. More than 46% to say, yes, I will do what I do for less money. So this is what it is. It's more than money. So earlier I asked you these 5 questions, right? So I'm not afraid of proposing new ideas to my manager. This is about action. I'm taking an action. I don't want any bullshit. I don't want, corporate bureaucracy. Now, second one, I don't need to please my boss to advance in my career. Being independent. So this is my career. It's not just about my boss, right? And I'm open to working with the people from different backgrounds. Obviously, collaborative, right? You're cooperating with other people. Without risk and challenges, I cannot learn and grow. Optimistic. You're being optimistic. You can fail and challenge, but that's how you learn and be a better person. Last one, I would do what I do for less money, intrinsically motivated. How many of you will do what you do for less money? Not much, not many, right? All right. So where do we start? In my opinion, we need to create this environment because the cultural characteristics that I mentioned earlier, the 5 characteristics, this is the environment that's going to attract the new talent, like the future talent, right? People who are looking for more challenges and they want to do better things and more things, the people with the capabilities, they're looking for that kind of work environment. So it's very important for us as Koreans to create that environment ourselves so we can be in the center of it. And the other thing is we can't really do all that by ourselves. Right? That's why we need to open up opportunities, as I mentioned, right? If you want best talents, best candidates, open up, right? So that way you can be open to more qualified, diverse talent pools where you can actually get the best candidates out of it. And that we need people who can create that sort of environment together with us. That's the second point. And number 3 is something that I don't want us to sort of underestimate the power of our already strong sort of characteristics as Koreans. I'm a citizen of the United States. I still call myself Korean, by the way. That's why I say we and they. So our characteristics and strength as Koreans, we have lots of great traits. Like not to just mention everything, but we're hardworking. Koreans are fast movers. We're effective. We're passionate, and we have lots of these interpersonal relationship skills. And we're humble. There's lots of great characteristics of Koreans. So it's not like, okay, Silicon Valley folks, they do in this way. Let's get rid of all this and let's move there. And I feel personally, if we build on top of what we have as a strength and then adopt those great traits from other people who are successful, we're going to be even better than anyone else in the world. That's how I see it. So just the last thought, just a picture here, but even if we don't do that, even if we don't create the environment, we don't open up an opportunity for other people, and we don't do this, others are going to do this. So that means we're going to be left behind, and this is the start line, but if we get ahead of them, this can be the finish line that we get in first. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you very much. Mr. Kim, you want to start this one?
Sure. I would like to ask Jenny a very simple question. So I understand that in the U.S., in the Silicon Valley especially, we have this environment where, there's autonomy, there's independence, and all these things that are great for innovation. Now, do you think that is driving the innovation, or I guess, simply put, is that the cause for innovation, or is innovation helping that?
Is
So
it
what is
innovation
causing that?
driving people to be like that, or the other
is it
around?
the other way around? Yeah.
I personally, maybe Dean, you can chime in, you're coming from Silicon Valley. My personal belief is that it comes from the people and culture, that it brings people with the money to come in and invest. Because if you don't have the mindset, if you don't have the passion to do things in a way that is innovative, nobody's going to come in and put money on you to be successful. That's the way I see it. But again, I think all the factors kind of go hand in hand as well. Dean, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think one of the key differences in Silicon Valley that people are trying to replicate around the world, and I travel around the world, is you look at a lot of the funding sources, and it rarely comes from the government. And when you look at Korea, you look at Singapore, you look at Japan, you look at Russia, you look at China, a lot of the funding for startups starts with the government. And then the government hopes to get the engine going, and then people come in to be more capitalistic, if you will. In Silicon Valley, I rarely hear about a venture capital or funding happening at the government level. It's more people putting their money in and hoping that it goes well. So I think that's also a big driver of the differences.
Yeah,
I don't know,
exactly.
Michael?
Yeah, I have another question for you, Jenny. First of all, I agree with you completely. That's what's really great with American startup companies and fast-moving companies is that the diversity of the working pool, where you can really attract the best brains, no matter the background or the culture. So I have a personal experience of that. From Sweden, I used to be an executive before joining the startup community. And I used to work together with the American companies in the pharma and life science industry. And I really recognize some kind of difference between Sweden and Swedish setup culture and the US, working with companies with lots of people from different cultural backgrounds. That was the decision process actually took longer for the American companies. There were so many people from different backgrounds, so there were risk for misunderstanding, so the need to be double-check or triple-check before a decision was taken. And I think Sweden has a similar setup like Korea. We are a much more homogeneous country. We didn't have that much immigrants. And I read some statistic while traveling here that also Korea has a lot of, not that many foreigners living here and doing business in this country. So a homogeneous community can also create flat organization with quick decision systems, processes, or the quick decision processes. But if you have a diversity, there is a risk to prolong the decision process. I don't know if you reflect on that. That's not more a reflection from me than a question, really.
No. I think that's a good point. I think I had a team in India once before, and I still have a team in Japan and a team in China and a team in Europe. They all kind of think differently, and the people
That's
from
my
the
point,
US think that, okay, this is the way you act. You just speak up what your mind in the meeting, and you see oftentimes in like calling in from Japan, they kind of put the phone on mute and they talk about it, and then maybe they talk to you later. So there's all different kind of aspect. But I think, in the diverse sort of environment, because like my team, probably, the team of maybe 60 probably come from all different countries, like probably more than 10 countries, right? So I think the setting expectations and the norms within your team in terms of what's the sort of the way to communicate, that's an important part of it. There's another important part of it is understanding the differences of the people who come from different countries. So you can't just force them to speak up if they don't want to do it. So you just give them alternative ways to be the harmony. I think that's important.
What I really experienced from my American colleagues that some of the companies really try to solve this problem by building several tiers in the company. So the decision has to go through several tiers before a decision was taken. That took a long time. That's obviously not something that you probably experienced from the Valley, but there's still a problem that you need to deal with in some way. So.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that allowing the team to sort of be in a flat sort of a structure where you can even if you report to somebody else, giving them an opportunity to sort of speak up and just go any channels, just get the right thing done. The important thing is having the common goals, I think.
Yeah. Right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Jenny. Next, we will have our friend Arthur talk about Robo Valley.
Thank you. First of all, Sean, I was really impressed by your presentation in terms of how important nowadays algorithms are in actually addressing opportunities in the world, because everything is getting connected and we can make smart and fast decisions on data being analyzed and getting these predictions in your management skills. And there was one remark I wanted to make is, here I made a photo of one of your slides, and it says, collecting the right data will be the easy part. And of course, writing the right algorithms, that's a clever process, but collecting them sometimes is it as well. And that's why, well, I'm presenting today RoboValley, which is actually the Silicon Valley of robotics. We are establishing this kind of ecosystem. And nowadays robotics is more than just the humanoid robot who is walking like this and seems to be like humankind. Robotics is the domains, is the collective domains of artificial intelligence, of big data, of vision, sensoring, and of course the mechatronics part. And what we found out now is that when we established, when we launched RoboValley last year in September in Silicon Valley, we got a lot of interest of investors, but also of multinationals who wanted to invest. What are the opportunities of robotization within our companies? Can you please help us identify them? And now we're like 6 months to 9 months further, and what we found out with a lot of multinationals who have plans is that collecting data in their plans is rather a tough process. Imagine making sold in a fabric like in AkzoNobel. How to find the right sensors in the right moment to have real-time opportunities to make decisions on getting your climate in the right way, on having your supply chain being optimized. Another part of the plans of AkzoNobel is the monochlorine alkylate. We are now investigating with our smart researchers from the TU Delft Robotics Institute, how can we create a robot within their channels of the tunnels of their processes in a hostile environment, because normal plastics or normal metal robots, you can't put them into these liquids because they're rather hostile. So now we are creating new kind of composites who can swim in the channels of the plant and collect data real time. So, and this is rather an expensive investment they have to make to get knowledge out of to get information, data, to make it information, and to get knowledge about their processes. So there was one remark I wanted to add to your presentation. And then, Jenny, I was really happy that you already talked a lot about Silicon Valley, because we are very inspired by the vibe which is there in Silicon Valley. And that was the reason why last year, September, we chose Silicon Valley to be the place where we wanted to launch RoboValley. So before I start my presentation on the subject of synergy, how to create synergy within an ecosystem, within a community of different stakeholders, governments, companies, startups, entrepreneurs, students, and of course, investors. I want to let you see the film. It's like 3 minutes on what is RoboValley. Oh, I have to press one more time? Yes, here it is.
Look around. This whole area will be RoboValley.
Okay. Wow.
But how to make a valley out of the flattest place on Earth?
Let me think. But just keep doing what you're good at.
It's already happening. Robo Valley. He's part of it. So is she, and a few hundred other professionals. Together, they shape a new reality with robots. Activities that, with the epicenter of Robo Valley in Delft, are reaching industrial scales. This is Delft, host to one of the top universities of technology in the world. Keywords, innovation, and robotics. Robo Valley is powered by TU Delft. And this is the Netherlands, a country with the best skills for R&D, with an ability for finding new solutions and organizing them. And that's exactly what a developing Robo Valley needs. The art of mastering complex cases. The art of launching a new market. Global technology in robotics is advancing very quickly, ranging from artificial intelligence and brain power, pure mechanical physics like touching, moving, and grabbing, to language and even philosophy.
Why are we here on Earth?
To create new things and share them with other people. Rock on!
Robots will be part of our lives. That's why Robo Valley in the Netherlands is connecting people and robots, technology and her impact on society. Robo Valley is developing a broad scope. It's about serving and assisting people who need it. It's about mobility in a fast-changing world. It's about security.
Please identify yourself.
It's about learning. And it's about earning money. In industry, and not to forget agriculture. Here, in the next few years, numerous researchers, industrial partners, and various startups will work on it. The Delft area has all the possibilities to create a flourishing Robo Valley. We have the knowledge, the ambition, the hardware and the software, the creativity and the entrepreneurship. That's how we can make a valley out of the flattest country in the world.
Welcome to Robo Valley.
So, this is the kind of energy we were looking for, and which we found in Silicon Valley. And now we want to create an environment. As Jenny said, the most important part is create an environment where people are intrinsically motivated. They want to thrive for getting the best results. And of course, you need technology when you have a technology-driven ecosystem. And then, of course, you need a lot of smart guys. And, well, we are very fortunate with the TU Delft Robotics Institute, with about 160 researchers working on their research on a daily basis in the field of robotics. And as I mentioned earlier, robotics is more than just the mechatronic part, it's the AI part, it is the vision, the sensoring part, the deep learning part. And like for the last 10 to 20 years, it was mainly mechatronics combined with sensoring, which was important to create robotic systems. But now it's moving, and the faculty on electronic engineering and mathematics and informatics is actually the main, is the core faculty delivering the new roboticists of the new generation of robots. And that's why it fits in this session. We have about 25 researchers working in the area of artificial intelligence, and mainly in machine learning and deep learning, because that's the way robots will teach other robots how the environment has to be created to be able to how do you say, to have their complex tasks being done. Like 20 years ago, there was a research program only focused on getting the complexity into the robot, which created robots which were rather clever in the industrial scene, but very costly as well. And as soon as one robot got broken, it was a loss of 250,000 euros or 500,000 euros, and there was a downtime from 2 to 6 months sometimes. So the last years, we're focusing on creating very dumb robots with just small kind of brains in their system, but combining it with other robots, we call that swarms, like you have the swarms of bees or ants. By creating swarms of robots, we can create a complex and high level of intelligence. And that's actually what we are striving for, that in the area of artificial intelligence, how can we together create a major genius in terms of intelligence? So let me now focus on how do you create an environment which is thriving in an ecosystem like we are building it within the area of the triple helix, as we call it. The triple helix means that we, as a research institute, TU Delft Robotics Institute, we want to collaborate with governments on legal frameworks, etc., with companies, with bright students who want to start up their own business. And why? Because creating the next generation robotics will only happen if we join each other's labs, when we join each other's worlds, when we are combining forces. And that's why we are building an environment, also a physical environment. Part of the campus now is with 3 buildings, able to house all kinds of companies, all kinds of startups and scale-ups, and also satellite labs for multinationals. For us, the most important part is that this ecosystem has to be created by having a harding beat in the center of this ecosystem, which is TU Delft Robotics Institute nowadays. So we call it, now it's powered by, and within 1 year it will be initiated by TU Delft Robotics Institute, and after 2 years it's just Robo Valley, because we want to connect with all other institutes throughout the world. So for instance, at the end of June, a delegation of K.E.Y will come over to Delft to look for collaboration programs together. How can we exchange visions, thoughts, knowledge on creating the next generation robots? That's very important for us, and that's one of the reasons that I'm here today to share my thoughts on, while I'm representing Robo Valley, on how we together can create, we, also Korea, we together can create the next generation robots. And it starts with, first of all, be good. If you don't have a good product, you can shout whatever you want, but it has to be good. But please share it. And that's not only be good and tell it, no, be good and tell it and show it and share it. That's why we are we are striving for an including model. We want to be open source. That's the only way we can create the next generation robots. So that means actually, and now I'm focusing on the how to create synergy within your system, it's all about marketing and communication. Marketing means how can I build bridges between you and me, between your world and my world, between our common frameworks of how we have our mental programs of envisioning the world. And communication is about the interaction, the traffic of our interaction. And one of the most important parts to us was, and that was astonishing when we started this program, the strategy of the roadmap 2 years ago, is that a lot of those researchers actually didn't know about each other. Actually, they were not aware of, for instance, those guys who were in the mechatronics department, what those guys of the cognitive science were doing, of cognitive computing, what they were doing. And then we had the aerospace faculty, and they were not aware of the vision robotics department within the mechatronics faculty. So that was the first step to us, that we brought all those researchers on a platform. We gave them a stage to show their work, to share their knowledge. That was one of the first steps we take, and we're still working on it, because every day we find out that some researchers are having a new program which is very relevant to one of the other research groups. Then what we found out is that a lot of policymakers in the government, they don't know what the actual status is of robotics, of the developments in robotics. And we need them. We need them for all the ethical issues, the safety, the privacy thoughts on creation of new technologies. And last but not least, the legal part. For instance, in the area of drones, we have severe problems now in the Netherlands with very strict regulations on where can we fly, where not. As long as you're a consumer, it's not a problem. You can have your drone in the park, and that's not a problem. As soon as you have an enterprise and you are using drones, for instance, as an agricultural farmer, using drones to get off all the other birds of your land, then you have a set of regulations, and at the end, actually it's forbidden. So we're working now on sharing our knowledge and our insights and creating debates with policymakers in the government to involve them in the process. And last but not least, enterprises. We actually were amazed by, on the C-level, the CEO, the CTO, the CIO, on this C-level, there's a lack of knowledge. There's a lack of knowledge on what is happening here. So I'm really happy with firms like SAP, who are sharing their knowledge all the time, just to get the knowledge platform a bit higher, also in the C-suite. And the way we want to create this synergy and actually this kind of communication lines is by various means and various channels. And we first started just simple by buying a tray of beers and Coca-Cola and Fanta and some chips and peanuts to have a robo-cafe, to invite all these researchers and all those entrepreneurs who are interested, or policymakers who are interested in our initiative, just to come by. And it was a great success the first time we did it. And now every month we have, at the last Thursday of the month, we have a robo-cafe from 5 till 7. And everybody is invited. And actually we learned from Silicon Valley, because that was the way the homebrew computer club every Tuesday, all those guys came together. Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, they joined each other in this cafe. And it works. It really works when you have this kind of informal encounterments. Of course, we created a newsletter, and actually now we're speeding it up from a monthly edition to a weekly edition, and we are already working with some algorithms on all this created information on the internet on what is happening in robotics and what is related to our institute and other institutes, to get it robotized, so that everyone can custom-made select what kind of news would you like to gather on your own device. And one of the other main parts of our communication strategy is creating big events ourselves and attending other events, because that's the way networks grow, and that's the way how you exchange thoughts. Let me, because I see my time is over already, or is it blinking all the time already?
No, you're done.
No. So let me only give you three examples of what we found was really interesting to start with. And the first one was we had the first masterclass last October for sub-C-level executive managers and executive policymakers. Just a 2-day program to get fully in-depth information on robotics. And the next will be in October this year. The second was we created a book. We asked 3 writers to have interviews with leading experts on the different parts of robotics, and to make a book out of it with a storyline of the industrial robot is waking up. Robots go online. They are helping each other, and they're interacting with us, with humans, and last but not least, the autonomous, the co-shared control. When we published this book, the 8th of January, we found out that there was a lot of interest, because actually it's the first edition worldwide, as we have seen so far, which gives you a broad view of the current developments of robotics and its impact on industry and society. And then next year, we will have our own Robo Business Europe conference. You're all invited. It will be in April the 20th and 21st, with a lot of experts on the different parts of the robotics. So, unfortunately, I have to leave for another program this afternoon, but I will be back on 16:30, so somewhere around 5 o'clock I will be back. I left some information on RoboVal Institute of Robotics Institute and my visit card here, and the first chapter of the book in a little booklet. So there are some copies over here. You can take it with you. And I have the honor, Sean, to give you one of the
great.
books. So
thank you
for
Beautiful.
moderating.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Wonderful. Thank you very much. I know you have to run, so we'll just go to the next topic, the ping. Thank you, Arthur.
Thank you.
大家好，刚才 Crook 先生提了很多次，有一个词叫做 share。那在今天，其实共享经济的风潮已经引领了全世界。那所以我今天来给大家介绍一下共享经济在中国的发展情况。我们把时间回推到2010年，我们看一下这张表呢，呈现了中国的共享经济项目的成立数目的一个趋势。共享经济在中国的发展比美国大概晚了3年时间。我们知道 Airbnb 和 Uber 在美国成立于2008年和2009年，中国的对标公司滴滴和途家分别成立于2011年和2012年。今天在市场上处于领先地位的共享经济企业，也大多数成立于这2年时间。这个数字在2014年开始井喷。这张表我挑选了大概有几家典型的独角兽的共享经济企业。他们分别来自于 P2P 金融、出行、自媒体和服务医疗行业。这些公司已经有了非常高的市值，但是他们是不是还会继续成长？在中国，创业者、美元投资机构最常用的预测方式是对标美国市场。我们来看一下中国和美国的共享经济市场的规模对比。2015年，中国共享经济市场规模约占全国 GDP 容量的1.59%，美国大概占到了3%。市值总量大约差距3倍。另外一方面呢，我们来看一下 这个参与的人数。中国虽然参与人数总量大于美国，但是人口占比只有22%，美国到了33%。这些差距对于创业者来讲，意味着极大的市场成长空间。国内的共享经济风潮已经席卷了大约有10个大行业和30个子类。我们来分别看一下。在出行领域，现在除了专车，还有拼车、代驾和租车。在空间租赁领域，有短租、长租、办公室和停车位。在美食领域，我们有厨师上门和家庭厨房。在金融领域，除了 P2P 借贷之外，我们还有股权众筹。在二手交易里面，除了二手车，还有二手消费品。物流领域有同城快递、货运。服务领域包括了自由职业者和专家的业余时间2大类。教育除了 K12的基础教育，还有远程外教和达人顾问。在医疗领域有在线问诊、多点执业以及医生上门。自媒体领域有文字、音频和视频的多种类别。但是，在这10大类别30个子类里面，其实发展已经分成了3大梯队。发展最快的金融和出行已经占到了整个市场份额的90%。成长初期的类别有空间租赁、专业服务以及二手交易。处在萌芽期的包括了餐饮服务、教育共享、医疗与自媒体。但是在这如此大的市场规模之下呢，我们不能不提中国的3大互联网巨头 BAT， 也就是大家熟知的百度、阿里巴巴和腾讯。他们分别垄断了中国的搜索、电子商务以及社交3大领域，平均市值超过了1000亿美元。据不完全统计呢，这3家公司在共享经济的领域的关注点从出行扩大到了二手、教育、P2P 信贷、医疗等各个领域。等于说，他们在这个共享经济领域里面已经抢得先手。百度投资了中国的Uber， 还有 P2P 信贷里面的宜人贷，二手交易里面的百姓网，教育里面的沪江和百度传媒，以及自媒体他们有自己的百度百家。阿里巴巴他们投资了滴滴打车，并且间接投资了美国的 Lyft。在 P2P 网贷里面，他们有自营的蚂蚁金服，在二手交易里面和物流里面，他们都是自营的淘宝闲鱼和菜鸟物流。自媒体领域，他们现在全资收购了优酷土豆，并且投资了微博。教育领域里面，他们投资了 VIP ABC。医疗里面，他们有自营的阿里健康。腾讯经历了滴滴和快滴的血战之后，也间接投资了 Lyft。他们还有 P2P 网贷里面的人人贷，二手车里面的人人车，教育里面的疯狂老师，自媒体的微信。微信在中国已经是一个国民应用，现在它的单独估值根据 HSBC 的报告说已经超过了800亿美元。在物流领域，他们有货车帮、人人快递网；医疗领域，他们投资了挂号网和妙手医生。但是在这么火的市场之下，究竟有什么背后的原因呢？我们来看一下技术原因。技术原因，据我分析有3点。第一点是智能手机的兴起和普及。在中国，网民总数大概有7亿人，智能手机的使用者已经有接近5亿人，其中 iPhone 的使用者大概有40%，而移动支付也已经达到了普及。移动支付的用户现在已经接近4亿人，这里面这一部分也被腾讯的微信和阿里巴巴的支付宝所垄断。第3是大数据和云计算能力。我们知道，共享经济它极大的依赖于平台，而基于大数据和云计算形成的信息枢纽，可以使供需方的这种海量碎片化的资源得到高效整合和精准匹配。另外是社会原因。中国正在进行非常强烈的城镇化运动，这意味着在城镇里面有非常强烈的需求以及非常过剩的市场劳动力供给，而且老龄化在中国现在也是愈演愈烈，这意味着老年人他们会有大量的闲置资源可以通过平台来共享出来。最后呢是习俗化，消费习惯正在逐渐形成，当大家已经习惯用手机来打车之后，他们不会再习惯用排队的形式来打出租车了。极牛呢，其实我们只是一家在专业服务类目下的一家初创公司，提供社会化的专家咨询服务。我们是在中国的万众创新的这种热潮和 互联网行业的高速发展情况下，高端人才的需求变得非常非常紧缺。所以，我们的方式是把顶尖人才，不光包括技术，同样包括市场运营和产品，这些顶尖人才通过社会化的方式共享出来。我们不光从互联网巨头，也从非常其他一些顶级的小互联网公司里面，网罗了很多顶尖人才，然后通过我们平台共享出来。现在已经有超过300名专家在我们平台上。我们已经服务了超过700家客户，涵盖从天使轮到上市公司不同的类别。同时，我们还为很多投资机构服务，帮助他们的投后的公司做投后支持，解决他们在成长过程中的诸多困难。然后希望，对，我的时间非常短，就是希望我们的这种发展情况能给韩国的公司有一些借鉴，同时也希望大家如果有意发展中国市场的话，希望金牛可以帮助到大家。
Peng, you get the award for the fastest presentation. Nice job.
Thank you.
So, Michael, you want to start with some questions?
Yeah, Mr. Peng, I have a question regarding what was mentioned yesterday in the plenary session about the collaboration between Korea, China, and India, you know, in different areas. Can you see any collaboration possibilities in the industry of shared service that you described? Like the initiatives you are mentioning in China, that you could see the use of a brain pool from Korea, and also the fact that the IE development can be distinguished from India.
其实我们现在已经在帮助有国外的公司在进入中国的时候，我们帮他负责组织一些中国本地的智囊团，帮他做进入中国市场的咨询和服务。会有这样的服务，对。但是在其他的层面，在其他的领域里面，其实我们已经看到了非常非常多的资本层面的合作，这已经是非常广泛在进行中的。
Right.
Mr. Kim,
Yeah.
you have?
I have another question. Thank you for the presentation. It was very impressive. What do you think is the biggest challenge for shared economy in China? Because to add on to that question, the biggest challenge that Korea experiences in that regard is the scalability, right? I suppose China doesn't really have a problem with scalability, but I wonder if there's any other challenges that you see.
在中国，其实共享经济它有非常好的一点是，就是它其实比政府的速度要快。它关注的是整个社会的效率提升，所以它成长的速度非常非常快，而且它有非常广阔的市场。但同时，政府对这一块它一直处在监控的过程之中，它不会过多的干预，但是它会一直去想办法去平衡它既有利益和互联网公司的利益，这点非常有意思。这我想也是所有中国共享经济项目的他们的最大的一个担忧的地方。
Okay, thank you very much, Peng. So with our last speaker, he's going to tell us about Data Disruption 4.0. Wilson, please.
Thank you, Dean. So I'm going to, there goes my presentation, talk about digital disruption in the context of globalization. I think the earlier presentation talked about big data. I think the next wave, it's all about data. So let me just get started, just to say that the information presented is for informational purposes only. So globalization trends, right? So if I look at technology, you know, going back to internet, Google as search, disrupt, right? Big disruption. Then e-commerce came along, Gmarket here, Amazon, eBay. That was a big disruption. Right? And it disrupts the traditional, what we call brick and mortar shopping, right? Your shopping malls, your shops, etc. And of course, after that, another big trend or disruption globally, social media, right? whether you Facebook or WhatsApp or Instagram or Snapchat. That was the kind of next big thing. Of course, now, as my guest here said, the sharing economy, right? These examples are obviously US-centric, but it's happening globally, as in China, India, Korea as well. But disruptions impact society, right? The bigger the disruption, the bigger the impact to society, because ultimately there's a displacement, right? You're either displacing traditional businesses or you're displacing traditional jobs. And so you're going to get a reaction. And so here, it's just recent example of protests against Uber, right? Because you're taking away taxi drivers' jobs, right? And with Airbnb in the sharing of room type of business, you're disrupting communities, right? People that live in communities or in their area don't want strangers in and out because they feel that's unsafe. So any sort of major disruption also disrupts society. And so, this kind of comes up most recently, and you can see it got front page in Time magazine, the dark side of the sharing economy, right? Or the dark side of any major disruption. But what do you notice, especially with these recent large, well-known businesses or new type of businesses? Uber owns no cars. Facebook doesn't create any content, right? Alibaba doesn't carry any products. And Airbnb doesn't own any hotel property. So how did they build these new massive business? It's all about the data, right? They're data companies. And so if it's all about the data, and here's just some customers and how much data that they're actually generating on a daily basis, then the question really becomes, how do you get value from the data? And then how do you get that value across your organization or company into the hands of everybody as fast as possible? And this quote actually came from an article by one of the writers, Dan Woods, in Forbes. There's a link there if you want to read the whole article. And so fundamentally, what we believe that, it comes down to building the right data architecture or data platform within your organization or your company so that you can have these new businesses or these new ideas. So how do you enable that? So one thing we say is really fast, right? There's many ways to manipulate data or to correlate data or work on data. Data's been around for so many years. What we're saying is that more and more importantly, it's fast time to value, that you really don't want your data in silos, right? The larger the company, whether it's Samsung here or large US multinationals, more and more the data sits within that business unit or that department, and it doesn't get shared. And so similar to Google, what we're saying is if your data is accessible by everybody, just like Google is accessible by everybody, if your data is indexed once or stored once and accessible by everybody in your company, then different people can ask different questions, right? And so this is, again, don't keep your data in silos, having one platform for your data so that many different people can have different use case for it. And don't worry about where your data resides, right? So the new trend now is, a lot of companies are moving to the cloud, but it doesn't really matter. Sometimes you need data in your company because of government regulations or compliance or data privacy, and sometimes you can put it in the cloud. Shouldn't really matter, right? So if you have a data platform and then you add in the different types of data that's available, right? So now, of course, we're talking about semi-structured or unstructured or digital data or machine data, right? From your smartphone, from your Internet of Things devices, from your sensors. But it's not just your data sources, right? It's also real time. A lot of these sensor data, it's coming in constantly, right? When you carry your smartphone around, it's being connected to the cell sites constantly. Your position on a GPS tracking will be constant. So it's not just the different type of data, but it's also that it's real time or maybe it's not real time, that the data will age also, right? Meaning that this month, for example, your billing data is very critical because you want to bill your customer, but in 6 months, it's just for, right, business analytics, trending analysis, etc. So it's not as critical. So if you add all this in, then this whole big data space becomes pretty complex. It's complex for a large company. It's impossible for a small company, right? Right? It's just it's very complex, and so you're gonna look like this person, right? Really difficult. So one thing to consider is, what if there is a different approach to data? And so this is your traditional approach. It really started with databases, right, or relational databases. You know, it didn't matter what type of data. It could have been sensor data, but it all stored in a structured format. It's all stored in a database format. Then, as many database architects or many business analysts know, you would structure your ETL or your transform load. You query, if you will, your data through SQL or query language. And so what we call this is, we call this kind of approach schema at write. And that just means that it's because when you're collecting your data, you already are putting in a structured format, right? I'm going to store for example, time and date, the location, you know, the price, the product name, etc. So you already have a structure. So we call this, when you're writing your data right into your platform, you have a predefined schema. And what we propose is that, similar to Google, that you don't have a structure, and that any data, whether it be your smartphone data, your customer order, any data, all you're doing is you really just want to index it. Okay? So there's no structure, there's no database, there is no, I need to store this tab. Everything that is in that data is indexed. So again, similar to Google, when it indexes the internet, it doesn't know what you would ask it, and it will be different from what I will ask it. And what I ask Google on a Monday morning is very different from what I look for on Saturday, which is probably more sports type information. So the whole idea is that you don't have a structure, that you index everything, and then you search on it depending on what type of questions you want to ask. And we call that approach schema at read, right? Meaning that the only time there's a structure around your data is when you ask it a question. And when you finish asking the question, it's almost like the schema disappears. The data at rest is flat. And so this is what we call a machine data fabric. You collect all types of data, you index it, and then you build your queries on it. And it doesn't matter where you store it. So it could be Hadoop in open source. It could be on your own data center. It could be in the cloud. But that you can also enrich it with third-party information, which means that it's not always about the data that you have in your company, right? You can pull in many types of data from very different sources. You may pull in weather information because you're actually like Amazon, right? Or like a retailer. You have shops, and you want to make sure you have enough umbrellas next week because it's going to rain, right? So that's external weather information. I'm going to show you a video where a train company correlate their own data with third-party or public earthquake data, right, to do some forecasting. So the whole idea is that it's not just about your data, it's about enriching the data with other people's data or other public sources of data. So I have a couple of videos. Looks like I'll have time to show it, so that's good. But I thought I'll show, instead of me talking, I'll show you some examples of what companies are doing, and I call it data disruption, in different areas, right? So if you think of your data being accessible on a platform, then, in different industries and in different functions, right, be it in marketing or cybersecurity or operations, you would have different uses of the data. So I'll give you these examples. Business analytics, how one bank uses their data to give them real-time visibility into their banking operations. The first video will be on customer experience, so how this company, it's about American football, so I hope that resonates. But how this company uses real-time data, different sources, to enhance their fan experience, right, live, right? So again, the idea is that your data can not only help you with historical kind of, big data analytic, but it could help you improve your business as it happens, right? Then a little bit on Internet of Things. Internet of Things, I think, has been a very interesting topic. The data's there. Getting value from IoT data has been pretty difficult, so I'll talk about planes, trains, and automobiles. For those of you who are old enough, that was actually a 1987 movie, American movie. And then last but not least, a fun thing on machine learning, analytics. I call it a man, a Mac, Splunk, and Super Bowl. And so we heard about predictive analytics and machine learning. There's a lot of interest. And I think this example is more fun and hopefully shows you, it's not just in the realm of data scientists and PhD that, people with, normal skill sets can also leverage machine learning. So let's start with the first example. So UniCredit is a European financial services bank or financial services institution. And you can see that they generate about 3 terabytes of data every day across their whole organization, right? Different parts of their organization. Some from their banking application, some from their network, from their retail branches, etc., right? And so then they use the data to give them real time. So this is the key, right? This is not business intelligence. This is real time as their business runs. Visibility into their ATM, their transaction, what's happening with their cards, what's happening with their customers. Right? So 3 terabyte data, not too small, not too big. There are customers that have right now 1,000 terabytes of data, so what we call 1 petabyte of data. That's how much some of the biggest organizations generate a day. But obviously, because they have access to this data, they can also do business planning, right? So your historical type of trending. And so this is just a sample of how they use some of the data, right? So data by itself you can't visualize it, right? It's rows and columns, or it's just data. So they visualize it, right? And here are different ways that they visualize their data: tracking network, on a real-time basis, looking at where their mobile banking customers are coming from, just map it across, their different countries where they operate. So just a different way, right? So again, the concept is the data could be the same, but depending on the user, the department, the business, you visualize it in different ways. So let's talk about customer experience. So VenueNext leveraged Splunk to help the San Francisco 49ers, which is a football team in the United States, with their stadium operations, right? So what they did was they index all the data that comes across many different sources, right? You think about in a stadium, you have point of sales operation, right? Where people sell hot dogs, sell beer, buy soft drink. Parking lot sensors, right? People monitoring type sensors, and they basically pull in all this data and then used it to deliver a better experience for the stadium operator. So instead of me talking, I'm just going to play the video.
We're trying to do 2 things at VenueNext: bring the fan a better experience when they're at a live venue, and secondly, help the live venue operator improve their business.
All the fan interactions through the 49ers mobile app are analyzed in Splunk, all in real time. And this helps them drive fan experience as well as revenue generating activities, making Splunk very strategic for the San Francisco 49ers.
So what VenueNext is doing is not only using the data that they generate from point of sale systems to ticket scanners to the apps that their users are using in the stadiums to order food or check replays for operational purposes, but also using it to determine whether or not they're going to run out of hot dogs in a specific section, or if they should be offering deals in sections where the temperature might be lower.
Having real-time data, for example, as cars are coming into the parking lot is just fantastic for us. We have 250 spaces left and it's 10 o'clock in the morning. We can then target customers and provide those customers with options of which lot that they'd like to park in, and then the specific directions on how to get to that lot.
The key is we use data and control to improve the experience for both the venue operator and the fan during the event. And then with our analytics platform, the venue operator can look for trends that happen over time.
What the VenueNext platform allows us to do is it drives incremental revenue for the team, both in the ticket world, knowing that you know exactly who's into your building so you can use that data throughout the course of the year. It's within the food and beverage opportunities, because if all of your fans are able to order food and beverage and you know what inventory you need, you can really streamline your operation. So it's both revenue and it's cost savings. And from an infrastructure perspective, this is where the future of sports is headed.
So, the takeaway is very diverse data types, right? Smartphone, point of sales, parking lot sensors, and then being able to combine that data and offer it to the business, offer real-time insight to the business, and that was the video during the game. So let's switch tacks a little bit. Internet of Things. First, I said planes. So, is big data only limited to big companies? I think that's been the premise, right? Just because it takes a lot of money to hire a lot of data scientists. And so therefore, by definition, almost like, well, it's only for big company. So Royal Flying Doctors is an Australian nonprofit organization. So as you know, nonprofits aren't your large multi-billion-dollar companies, right? So it's an NGO. It serves the remote communities in Australia with doctor services, so they fly in. And they actually use the data platform. In this case, they use Splunk to track where their aircrafts are in real time all over the country of Australia. In fact, they actually operate, I didn't even know this, they operate the third largest fleet of airplanes in Australia after Qantas and Virgin. So they use that to track in real time where their planes are, as well as where their medicine is, because they actually have very time-sensitive medicine with very strict expiry date. So you can imagine the problems it would cause if you prescribed expired medicine to a patient, and obviously, something bad happens, right? So that's a plain example. It's a nonprofit, right, using data in interesting ways. Deutsche Bahn, which is the German railway company, had train data. And so they actually didn't know what to do with that data. It's back to one of the points about you can ask any questions, right? Try many different questions until you find something interesting. So they actually held a 24-hour hackathon. I have a video, but I probably won't show it. I'll skip to the last one. But they correlate their train data with, or we did, Splunk won the hackathon, with earthquake and weather information, and was able to predict which parts of their railway was going to fail more frequently than other parts. But I'll skip this video, and I'll move on to the last video in the interest of time. So the last part was planes, trains, and cars. So Volkswagen, for example, indexes their smart car data, and that allows them to do different things from a customer analytic perspective. But they can also track the cars in real time on a Google map, right? So you can actually map your car sensor data to actually where the car is driving, right? So again, the correlation of data is probably what's key. So, it's not so much as, hey, my car seems to be having more problems. It's my car seems to be having more problem because it was climbing a steep hill, right? So the correlation with external information is a good learning point. So last example, machine learning. So this is a fun one. So Super Bowl is a big event, sports event in United States. This year, it was the Broncos versus the Panthers. Just happened in February. Sports Illustrated picked up the story. So Actually, Nate McCurvey is our Director of Technical Marketing in San Francisco, and he was challenged to predict what the quarterback was going to do. So he was challenged to do, I guess, predictive analytics. He was challenged to predict the next play of the quarterback, right? And the story was picked up by Sports Illustrated, and then was picked up by CNN because he actually, and that's why I say it was him, his Mac. So it wasn't a big, 20 data scientist type project. He took it as a challenge, and he actually did it. So the clip I'm going to show, and then I'll wrap up, is actually the video clip from CNN. So you may want to turn up the audio because the audio is a little faint. So let's just play the clip.
During the Broncos versus Patriots game, there was a moment where the Patriots didn't have access to their information on their tablets, and they were pretty distraught. Coaches are using more data than ever before. Everybody needs access to the data in order to make the best decisions possible. Splunk is a software company which enables people to gain insight from their data. It started as I was just splunking my golf swing to try to improve it, and a friend of mine said, hey, it's NBA Finals time, can you splunk the NBA? So I splunked the NBA and found some interesting information. We realized that this could be really valuable for predicting plays in the NFL using machine learning. So let's say there's 3 yards to go, Denver's on offense, it's the 3rd quarter, it's the 3rd down, what's Peyton gonna do? Well, historically, he would pass it 76% of the time. But in this case, using the machine learning model, it looks like he's more likely to pass it than history says. So by analyzing all of the plays in the history of NFL since the year 2000, we can see a lot of common threads, things that happen. And with that data, you can predict the next play. But if you're a coach, you can also disrupt what the other coach is thinking your team may do. So you might run a model on your own team and say, oh, they think we're going to pass right here. Let's do something different.
So I hope that was kind of a fun example. Machine learning, it's a really interesting field. So let me wrap it up by saying the whole, approach is about building a data platform where different people can ask different questions off the same data. So with that, let me close and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Wilson. I love the football examples. I hope my Korean friends understood a little bit about that. Well, we're running right up against lunch, so I'm sorry, great advisors, we're not going to have any more questions. But we wanted to thank the panel, so please give them a round of applause. And they will be around if you want to ask any questions. And I'd like to thank you for coming. Thank you.